Okay, so we just get started. So my name is Angela McNally. I'm the Partnership Services Manager for NSPCC Northern Ireland. I have a background in social work, having moved from the statutory sector to the NSPCC around 3 years ago. So today is really an introduction to the NSPCC services and supports. Okay, so we always like to plug this early in around taking care of yourself. I know as social workers, social care workers, team managers, we're not always great at that. So it's just to reinforce that it is important to take care of yourself. We will be talking today about themes of abuse. We'll not be getting into the nature of abuse, but we will talk about themes, and these can be sensitive. So just to remind everyone to take time out if needed. You can have your camera on, camera off, whichever suits you, and we'll try to take a 5-minute break sort of halfway through. I'd also like to remind you that NSPCC have a helpline. My colleague Grania will introduce herself a bit later on and talk to you a wee bit more about helpline. But basically, if you have any worries about a child, you can contact our helpline for advice and support. And we also have a whistleblowing advice helpline for those who are worried about the practice of others that you can contact as well. Okay. So just to go over what this session is going to cover, we're going to give a really light overview of the NSPCC, including what our vision is, our priorities, and what we do to support student social workers and social care practice. We're going to outline where our hubs are located and give an overview of the evidence-based services on offer to children and families. We'll give an overview of Childline and Helpline and some of the offers there. And a very light touch on our school service, that universal offer, and what you can expect from that. We'll highlight ways that you can volunteer for us. We are a charity and we depend on that greatly, and give you a steer towards NSPCC Learning and the value of this for your own practice. We'll give a very light touch also on our local campaigns and how these can support you in practice and where to access them. Okay, Alison mentioned this at the start, but just to say that if you have any burning questions or queries as we go through the presentation, do pop them in the chat. We'll try to get to questions and answers at the end, but I am aware that we have the 1:30. So if we don't get time to respond to those, we'll follow up with those questions and answers to those in the call afterwards. Okay. So basically, just to start, I'm sure you've all heard of NSPCC, but just to say that we're the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. We're the UK's largest charity specialising in child protection and prevention of cruelty to children. We're over 130 years old, and we see safeguarding really in its broadest sense, from safeguarding wellbeing, emotional wellbeing, everyday issues to child protection. Okay, so this is our current vision and strategy. Just to say, this is currently under review, so may change in the future. But as we said at the moment, the 3 key impact goals you see here at the top, this sort of informs everything that we do. So we believe that everyone plays their part to prevent child abuse. Hence, we're here, we're working together, we're talking to you about what that looks like. That every child is safe online and that every child feels safe, supported and listened to. We work to the principles there that you can see, and we're aligned to these values. Just wanted to highlight this early as well in terms of NISC standards. Everyone on the call today will be registered with NISC, and we're all signed up to our values and ethics, and these two align with what we want to achieve at the NSPCC. Okay, so it was just to really have a think about that, about the common themes between our vision at the NSPCC and that of your social work and social care values and standards. Just to say to you also that it really is a mixed economy of social work in terms of our shared purpose. I mean, these things are outlined through the Northern Ireland Social Work Strategy, that we all work towards inclusion, safeguarding wellbeing, we wish to be person-centred, promote dignity and empowerment. The social work world and support of children, really, it is a mixed economy. We have statutory social work. I know some of you will be joining from the statutory sector. Should this be child protection work where you have statutory responsibilities? We're from the voluntary and community centre, so we may sit more within the preventive space and that of therapeutic support, as you'll hear as we work through the PowerPoint from our direct services. And really, it's about collaboration for better outcomes. And this was also reflected by Ray Jones in his recent review of Northern Ireland social care. Okay, so you're going to hear about our direct services, Childline, Helpline, and all of that throughout the presentation, but I wanted to sort of give you an overview really of other areas of expertise within the NSPCC. So within the NSPCC, we have a policy and public affairs team who aim to influence and change policy and legislation in the prevention of cruelty and harm to children to help transform society. So in terms of something most recently we've been working on, it has been our call for equal protections. So NSPCC have lobbied to Stormont through a petition and an open letter to have equal protections for children. And what we mean by that is that Northern Ireland and England are the only two areas of the UK, Scotland and Wales don't have it, that don't have equal protections for children, whereby the defence of reasonable chastisement can be used in terms of physical punishment of children. But NSPCC and our policy and public affairs team are calling for that to end. So we also offer training and consultancy to help organisations and sectors across Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK to be safer places for children. So we will provide, they're usually paid for offers, so we'll provide that training and support about what your safeguarding policies and procedures should look like. One interesting place that we're working at the moment would be on cruise ships. If you think about it, cruise ships will often have children, young people and vulnerable adults. So it's important that they have their child protection policies and practices in place and that all staff are aware of them. So we also have a child protection and sport unit. So child protection and sport unit supports small and large sporting organisations throughout Northern Ireland to implement safe practices for children and prevent harm. So this could be from the GAA to Ulster Rugby to supporting parents really who've had an issue with a sport organisation, to support that parent that the sporting organisation has done what they should to safeguard that child and what the parent should expect from the sporting organisation in safeguarding that child. So there's a helpline associated with the child protection sport unit that parents can use to take advice in that area. Okay, so NSPCC Northern Ireland, we are a UK-wide charity, but we do have a hub that operates in Belfast and the Foyle area. Our hub in Belfast comprises of our direct services. So we have therapeutic rooms there that will deliver direct services to children and families from. We also have a Childline base there and a Helpline base. And then in Foyle, we have direct services are based there with therapeutic support rooms also to deliver those direct services, and we have a Childline base. So Childline, obviously, we are reliant on volunteers, so the two bases there allow for volunteers to come and be supported in their practice also. So next I'm going to show you is this wee video, which is aimed really at children. So what I would do, I'm going to follow up after this with a copy of our slides. So you'll have an opportunity to look at this again, but I would encourage you maybe to share this video with any children or young people or parents or professionals that are interested in coming to see us who may be using our services that we'll talk to. And after this video, this can be shared sort of in preparation or for more information for those interested. Okay, so any issues with sound, do let me know. Hi everybody, I'm Angelina.
And I'm Billy.
And today we're going to give you a tour of Northern Ireland Hub.
This is our reception. So when any child or young person comes here, we've got toys and displays to make sure you don't get bored. You can also meet a few members of the team.
Each room here has its own toys, games and things to play with. We've even got these cosy chairs and a teepee. Everything is calm and welcoming for you when you come and visit.
If you come here and make some art, we'll put it on display so you can be proud of what you've made.
We've also got a place where you can make a drink and choose a snack to have whilst you're visiting.
And when you arrive, we have a team of supportive staff who will greet you and make you welcome from the moment you get here.
And that's the Northern Ireland Hub.
We hope you enjoyed the tour.
Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Irene now, who's going to talk to us about direct services available.
Hi there, my name's Irene Gettigan and I'm the team manager at the Belfast site for direct services. So I'm going to speak a little bit about our different services. If you could do the next slide, Angelina. Thank you. So Pregnancy in Mind, this service is one of our 3 services that we deliver. There is a little video, if you go on to the next slide, Angelina, that'll explain a wee bit about the service first and then I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
When you're expecting a baby, a lot changes.
You must be.
I know I felt overwhelmed. There was so much to sort out. I felt guilty and stressed when I just wanted to be happy. Pregnancy can cause complicated feelings. It's important to take time and focus on what's happening inside your mind. Wherever you are in the UK, Pregnancy in Mind can help. It gives you space to talk and time to breathe. It's totally free, runs for 8 weeks, and you'll get a check-in after baby is born. You can join a group if you or your partner is between 12 and 26 weeks pregnant. Join by yourself or come with a support person. Try different things that support better emotional well-being. Try mindfulness and relaxation. Learn how the brain works and find coping skills that you can use. It's about supporting you when you're expecting a baby. Pregnancy in Mind, a space for you.
So that's a little video and it shows that with regards to pregnancy, while it's a very joyous time, and it certainly is, it also has anxieties and worries as well. And with that, the NSPCC, the rationale and background of why we decided to do what we did was that research has shown that 1 in 5 mothers can experience anxiety and depression in the perinatal period. And also partners can experience this as well, mental health problems and depression and anxiety during that period as well. So untreated perinatal depression and anxiety can interfere with the parent's ability to provide a warm and sensitive care to their child. And this can lead to poor outcomes for children. And that's something that the NSPCC wants to prevent. So Pregnancy in Mind was designed to fill that gap, to enable parents to receive a service before reaching the crisis point. So it's an early intervention service. And it is because we recognise the disruption that can happen with regards to the risk factors for postnatal depression, and limited and inconsistent and preventative early support services aren't always available. Like if you have a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, then you can access services, but sometimes if you don't, there's little services and support out there. And some barriers that can be impacting on parents as well, like fear and stigma, meeting other parents in a peer group setting can really help parents realize, well, yeah, I'm not the only one who has these fears and worries, and can really help people. And a big focus is not just the mental health with regards to Pregnancy in Mind, but also connection with your baby, because that seems a protective outcome for the children. So a lot of that stuff is, involved in the service. So the aims then is to enable parents to build the relationship and gain knowledge and skills, which will help them to manage some of their challenging feelings and thoughts that they're having, to support a reduction in the severity and impact of their anxiety and depression. Several core themes and techniques are used within PIM. Angelina, if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So you can see some of the core themes there. We've got mindfulness, meditation. We use a lot of things during the program, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, grounding things, breathing exercises, sitting with your baby, and breathing with your baby, which is really nice to connect yourself with the baby, and leaves on the stream, which I'll show you in a little bit as well. And then relaxation methods, movement using music. Somatic movement is very important in terms of the if you're feeling anxiety and things like that. We also include a little bit of psychoeducation and coping skills. We talk about things like the fetal development, so you understand where you're at in your pregnancy, the hormones, oxytocin and adrenaline, what they do, and the impact that they might be having. And talk about coping skills and mechanisms for managing those. I mentioned before the peer support. That is so important with PIM. The normalization of having mental health worries during your pregnancy, having anxiety, being able to share that with others and get support from others, and normalizing that it's okay to reach out and speak out is so important. And we have some groups that go along that, even after our group finishes, they meet up and they do WhatsApp calls and things like that, which is absolutely lovely for the sustainability of that support ongoingly. Connecting with your baby is another area that we do a lot of work on. Some of the activities like the breathing, sitting with your baby, it's one of them, but we also do things like imagining what your baby's going to be like. What's the first book you're going to read to your baby? What's your baby's name going to be? What characteristics will your baby have? All that brings baby into the room. The more you bring baby in the room, the more of a protective factor it is, and it's very important for developing that connectivity. And couples and co-parenting relationships, we offer that partners can attend the service in their own right as well. Sometimes there is restrictions with that. People are working, things like that. So we might offer them an out of hours session, if the couple want to talk about some stuff for themselves, or the partner wants to learn some more about maybe the psychoeducation part of it, relaxation skills, that they're learning during the program, so they can support their partner better and support themselves in their own anxiety. So yeah, there's a lot of different things involved in the core themes. Angelina, could you do the next slide? Thank you. So this next slide is leaves on a stream and mindfulness. So what I'm going to do is invite you to take a moment, and this is so you can get a bit of experience of it yourself. Get comfortable in your chair and relax, and just take your time and watch the video and go through the process with regards to the leaves on a stream, and I'll talk a wee bit about it afterwards. Thank you.
Exercise 3, leaves on a stream. The idea behind this exercise is to simply notice your thoughts coming and going without getting caught with them, without getting into a conversation with them, not trying to control them, not getting tangled up with them, just noticing them and then letting them go. When you are ready, begin. Sit comfortably in your chair with your feet on the ground if you can, and your back straight, but not too straight, sitting against the chair. If you wish, close your eyes or have a heavy lidded gaze, maybe looking at one spot on the ground. Now imagine you are sitting on the bank of a stream and that there are leaves flowing past. The stream and the leaves can look any way you like to imagine. Notice a thought that comes into your mind and imagine placing it on a leaf and letting it flow on. Notice each thought. Imagine placing it on a leaf and let it float on. If your mind begins to wander, just notice that. Or return your focus to noticing the thoughts that come to mind, and imagine putting them on a leaf and let them float on. If your thoughts stop, just imagine watching the stream until the next one comes along. It doesn't matter if they are good or bad thoughts. Just notice them and imagine placing them on a leaf and let them float away. If they hang around, just notice that. Don't force the speed that they float away on. Sometimes the leaves that pass are ones that might grab our attention for some reason. Sitting on the bankside, we could notice that attention-grabbing leaf. Let it go and watch and wait for the next leaf that comes along. The aim of the skill is to simply notice that our thoughts are like leaves on a stream, always moving on. Sometimes we think a little, or we think a lot. Sometimes we get stuck on thoughts that grab our attention. But all our thoughts come and go, even worry thoughts or sad thoughts. Spending a few more moments just watching your thoughts and placing them on a leaf and letting them go. And when you're ready, begin to open your eyes and bring yourself back into the room. What was it like to watch your thoughts go by? What did you notice?
So that little activity, that sort of gives people a chance to be present in the room. It gives people a chance to calm themselves, and if they're feeling anxious or anything, but also gives a chance to challenge negative thoughts, to think about what thoughts were on the leaf for you, and invite participants to have that discussion about opening up about their thoughts and maybe being able to challenge those and work through those. So it's a great wee example of the mindfulness techniques that we try and use. So referral criteria for PIM then. And some of this was mentioned in the little video at the start, that it's 12 to 26 weeks. The reason we have it cut off at 26 weeks is the group is 8 weeks long, and the group is 1.5 hours a week. So in order to fit that in time for people's expected due date, it needs to finish by around about 34 weeks, because sometimes people can't go into labour a bit early and stuff. That's one of the criteria. Currently experiencing or at risk of mild or moderate anxiety and depression in the perinatal period. As I mentioned before, this is a preventive early service. It's for people because we recognise there was a gap in preventative services. So if you do have a mental health diagnosis or you meet the criteria of the perinatal mental health team, those would be the services that you should go to. Because you need that level of support with regards to your mental health and managing that during pregnancy. This is for more lower levels, mild to moderate. No active self-harm, suicide attempts during pregnancy. I think that mirrors about the level of your mental health. If you have those things going on, you need more specialist services than ours. The same with no hospital treatment in the last 6 months for mental health. Once again, you should be under the mental health team or the perinatal mental health team, whichever is appropriate to you. Not receiving a service from the community mental health team is also a criteria. Giving consent, and what we like to think about is what we call informed consent. It's not just, oh yeah, I'll do that programme. It's what does the programme involve? And we try and encourage midwives who make a lot of referrals to us and the perinatal mental health team to really talk to people about what that commitment is. Can they commit to coming to a group? Are they willing to go to a group over a number of weeks and stuff like that? And is it the type of support they're wanting? Professional and self-referrals are accepted. Absolutely brilliant. Self-referrals are lovely because informed consent's already there. They're like putting their hands up saying, I want this, I need this, and they're wanting to join. One-to-one options. It is a group service, a group program. But say, for example, we've had like a mum who was in her booking stage of pregnancy, which was 12 weeks, was told about the PIM service, and she thought, oh, I don't need it at this point in time. She got to 30 weeks and she was thinking, I'm feeling really, really, really anxious and I need some support. She reached out to us. She was outside the criteria to join a group in time. It wasn't going to happen. We had capacity within the team, so we offered her a tailored one-to-one condensed version of PIM to what she was experiencing and what she needed support with. We can't always guarantee to offer that. That's above what we would normally do. It's just whether or not we have that capacity, but we do look at it as an option if possible. Okay, the next slide then, Angelina. So this service, Letting in the Future, is a sexual abuse recovery service, because research has shown like 2,275 young people aged 11 to 17 were asked about their experiences with regards to sexual abuse, and 1 in 20 children in the UK shared that they had been abused. Significant developments in understanding what works in terms of assessment and therapeutic intervention of children and young people who have been sexually abused is being looked at, and also assessment and therapeutic intervention for children and young people with harmful sexual behaviour themselves. The effects of early trauma on the developing child can be quite profound and can have a devastating effect and become even more complex in nature as they grow up. This quote's quite nice. Trauma is anything that disrupts the optimal development of a child. So, it's quite broad in terms of what can be affected. Next slide, Angelina. Thank you. So what is LTFI then? LTFI, Letting in the Future Service, is a sexual abuse recovery program that we offer for 4 to 17-year-olds who have been sexually abused, currently living with a carer who's identified as safe. That's someone who's supportive, there for them. The service it's quite a long service, can take up to a year. The reason for that is the therapeutic relationship and approach that we use takes a long time to build that safety and trust with a child. It doesn't happen overnight, so the service does need to take a long time. And it's in order to help them explore their feelings and thoughts with regards to their experiences. We support them to recover from that impact of the abuse and try and strengthen the supportive relationships with between the child and the carer. We also work with the parent and carers themselves, who play a really important role in the recovery for a child, and they're offered individual support or joint sessions with a child or young person. The LTFI sort of support has a guide designed by using the referral, assessment and therapeutic intervention sort of framework, and that's based on the regenerative model, which uses psychodynamic attachment based approach, and it's taken from relevant theory and research that's being developed. The assessment and intervention then, sorry Angelina, if you go back that past slide, the previous slide, thank you. So assessment and intervention then, we offer weekly sessions 1-to-1 with a trained practitioner, and that is the same practitioner to develop that relationship. There is 4 assessment sessions with the young person to try and understand what they're feeling and what impacts have had for them. There's 2 sessions with the parent and carer to better understand how they're functioning in terms of their relationship with the young person and supporting that young person or child, and what their needs are as well for recovery. We liaise with other professionals because it's a holistic approach in terms of trying to understand what school are seeing in terms of impacts for children, and also other professionals involved with the child, maybe CAMS or whoever, and what they're seeing. Siblings as well are looked at. There might be impacts for them in terms of what their worries are for their sibling and how they're responding to their sibling. So we do offer some work with them if that is coming out as having impacts. And we do rate a therapeutic assessment of need at the end of the assessment period. It is a thorough assessment because it's the right service at the right time is really important for us. And that is something that we try and get right, because someone has to be in the right place and be supported to go through the process of recovery with us. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you, Angelina. Assessment and intervention. This is the next stage. Once we've had an assessment, we've deemed it is the right service, it is the right time, the young person's engaged, willing. We can offer up to 24 sessions with the young person. These can focus on areas identified in the assessment. Things like their anxiety, their disassociation, intrusive thoughts, sexual distress, self-esteem. And we use a therapeutic checklist, symptom checklist tool with the child to try and identify some of those different areas. And up to 8 individual sessions can be offered with the carer as well, as I mentioned before, and up to 8 individual sessions can be offered with a sibling who's been impacted. So that's the intervention stage of the LTFI. Sometimes it does go a little bit over for different reasons. Someone's got additional needs or whatever. We do take all those things into account. Evaluation findings. So there has been some evaluation done with regards to letting in the future service. And in the evaluation, it was found that 3/4, 73% of children aged 8 and over who completed 6 months of the letting in the future service, who had severe emotional difficulties at the start, that dropped to less than half, 46% having severe emotional difficulties at the end, which is great to see. Also, when we're taking into account children who didn't engage, that dropout increases, or that sort of support level increases, where severe trauma dropped from 68% to 51%. Sometimes we do have dropouts because it's not the right time. They realise once they're starting to do, even in the assessment, they're thinking it's the right time, and then once they start to do the work, it's not the right time, or another family event happens that means it's not the right time for them, or something like that. In this study, there was no comparable change for a control group who were on the waiting list. So that did indicate that the results that we were seeing were part of the service that we were delivering. And there was a lovely quote from a parent from this evaluation findings, where they talked about the practitioner and that they were blessed. It was a blessing to us parents and made us feel very comfortable. They made us feel very comfortable. They gave us the tools to speak more freely with each other, very professional, friendly, and was a comfort to us. Our sessions will be greatly missed. Stuff like that. That's really nice. It shows the impact that it's had for the family. And that's exactly why we do the work, to help people move forward. How to make referrals to our service then for LTFI. Professional referrals can be made via the referral form we have, and that's via our hub email address, which is at the bottom there. We do ask as much information as possible can be in the referral. It just helps us to look at things like suitability for the programme, safeguarding, and make sure we get the suitable practitioner if there's any particular reasons why we might need someone in particular. And also includes risk assessments and anything relating to the family, any reports relating to the family. Referrals also can be received directly from the families themselves, and that's always lovely because it means that someone's thought that this is what they want, this is a service that they need. And we have a practitioner on duty every day who will take referrals and talk them through the process and take all the information that's needed. So there's a telephone number and an email address there. And Angelina did say she'll send out the slides at the end, so you'll have that information as well. Next slide, Angelina. So looking at a case example. So this is just to get you a bit of a flavour of what we might be working with in terms of the Letting in the Future service. So this is Adam, and Adam is 16 years of age, identifies as male. A bit of background about Adam. He lives with his mum and Wendy and younger brother George, who is 8. Wendy met Paul and they have a 4-year-old daughter Susan, who also lives with Wendy. Adam's dad Peter lives with his new partner Sue, and they have a daughter Faye, who is 3 years old. Wendy and Peter co-parent Adam and George, with the boys staying with the dads at weekends. Adam initially shared his experience of sexual abuse to his mum. He shared that his stepdad, Paul, has been sexually abusing him since he was 9 years old. Wendy acted appropriately, protectively, as soon as Adam shared with her his experience. Wendy contacted the police and Paul was removed from the family home. Police investigation is ongoing and social services are supporting the family. Adam completed an ABE, Achieving Best Evidence, interview with the police. There has been no history of social services involvement with Adam prior to sharing his experience with his mum. So that was a bit setting the scene. Next slide, please, Angelina. Thank you. So if we had a bit more time, but I don't think we've got enough time for this, we would have taken a bit more time to actually ask you to think about the presenting issues and to come up with some of those yourself. But just to move things forward a little bit, we're going to share them directly with you now. So Adam's presenting issues, whereas he was having difficulty in concentrating in school, displaying avoidance behaviours, and was starting to get into fights in school. He was becoming increasingly withdrawn and often irritable at home. He was also experiencing nightmares and not sleeping well. Summary of the work then that we did. Adam's social worker made a referral for the LTFI. Practitioner undertook an assessment of therapeutic need with Adam and his family. The assessment explored Adam's background, current presenting symptoms, and immediate needs. Practitioner created a safe and supportive environment, building a therapeutic relationship which Adam respected, with respecting Adam's pace and comfort levels. Adam chose Monday afternoons as best time for him, and the practitioner ensured the same room at the same time was booked each week. Practitioner got to know Adam's interests and used this to engage him and build on the connection between the worker and the service user. For example, his love of football and enjoying doodling. Adam's mum and dad engaged with the safe care element of the assessment, sharing their views as well as their own thoughts and feelings. Next slide, Angelina. The practitioner also spoke to Adam's social worker, the school and the investigating officer, taking a holistic approach for Adam. As part of the completing of the assessment of therapeutic need, Adam's thoughts and feelings of what would be helpful was sought, and he was involved in decision making about the LTFI intervention going forward. LTFI assessment found that further intervention support would help Adam and his family in moving forward. Adam's mum and dad both believed their son and acted supportively. Despite being separated, they supported Adam throughout. The intervention focused on areas of need identified by the assessment. So part of the work focused on triggers Adam was experiencing, with him using self-harm to manage his feelings following it. Whilst we needed to work on the triggers, we also needed to consider safety, and so using our own safe learning policy, and the practitioner spoke with Adam's parents to create a safety plan. This, however, created a barrier for Adam to continue in attending sessions, and a good working agreement helped to refer back to the confidentiality that we discussed, whilst acknowledging and validating his feelings. Work continued on triggers, which led to a decrease in his post-traumatic symptoms for Adam. Next slide then, Angelina. Intervention also focused on reframing negative thoughts and finding positive self-affirmations, which was helpful in decreasing anxiety, as well as increasing his self-esteem, which ultimately increased resilience and built on his coping skills, both of which enabled trust in others to be built upon. Moving towards integration of trauma and endings, Adam chose to write a no-post letter to his stepfather, describing the impact his actions had on him. He then chose to burn the letter and throw rocks containing elements of hurt that Paul had caused into the sea. By the end of the work, Adam felt more empowered and in control of his healing journey. Adam was able to manage his symptoms more effectively, building healthier relationships and developing a stronger sense of self-worth. While the journey is ongoing, Adam experiences significant improvement in his mental health and quality of life. So by working in a patient empathetic way and understanding the way Adam was impacted, work to support him holistically. And by using the trauma-informed approach, not just addressing the trauma itself, but creating a supportive environment where Adam felt safe and respected and in control of his healing journey and allowed for a therapeutic relationship. Overall, one of the things with the trauma is of sexual abuse can be your own agency being taken away from you. And that's why things like the no-post letter and him burning that and throwing the rocks of the pain, they're all very symbolistic of him taking back control, taking back his agency, which is really important in someone's mastery of trauma and working through those feelings. The next slide that Angelina's put up there shows a little bit of some of the artwork that young people have done. And if you see the first one there, and that's a little head, we use this as helping young people to try and understand the upstairs downstairs brain. Things about when your amygdala kicks in, and you've got your fight or flight and you're and anxious, that's your downstairs brain, your primitive brain. And we get young people to and children to name different characters under those different parts of your brain. So like for your downstairs brain, your survival brain, you might have things like meltdown Mickey and zone out Zoe, for disassociation and things like that, and worried Will. But then you understand your upstairs brain and the cognitive functions of your upstairs brain in terms of your creativity, and you name characters around that, like creative Cara and problem solving Pete and stand up Seth and stuff like that. And it helps you understand the connection between those two areas. And the reason why that's important to help young people understand that is so when they're feeling a build up to some of these feelings, then they may try and use some of the strategies that we talk about with them, box breathing, things like that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, grounding exercises, to try and stop yourself going to re-engage your cognitive brain and to stop you going completely into fight and flight. And it's sort of the terminology for to help understand that is sort of helping you from learn how not to flip your lid. So it's quite good, and it's lovely. It's a lovely little example of that. And the young person gave consent and agreed for us to be able to show that to allow other people to learn from their work. All this has had consent, and as you can see at the bottom, just underneath the head, there's like what looks like a little volcano, and we use that as the feelings volcano to show what happens when your feelings erupt from you and how to manage those feelings and what happens with those feelings. And it gives people validation that it's okay that they're having these feelings. It's just managing them, and it's normal to have these feelings. They're not broken. They're just, their bodies are telling them something that bad happened, and it can retell those stories even when things aren't happening right there and then, and helping them understand that these feelings are okay. And also the symbolism of trying to share your feelings. The next wee one has like a little person, and it shows the emotions that they're feeling in terms of feeling frightened. And that they built that with some clay. So a lot of clay work and touching, feeling, sensory work is very important. Someone drew also the little character of their brain to show anger in their brain and stuff like that. And then the last bit, so there is the bowl of light and the worry rocks. The bowl of light is things that you put in that give you hope and positive things for the future. Your worry rocks is what you put in, that we mentioned about Adam using. He's throwing away those rocks that that Paul hurt him with, the things that hurt him. Well, you may put in your worry bowl things that hurt you. And as you go through your journey, your LTFI journey, the hope is that you can remove some of those rocks, and you can, those rocks don't become so heavy for you. All symbolism as well as thinking about what what's upsetting you. So they're all really good examples of the types of things that young people have created to help themselves in their journey. So that's the LTFI sort of service. Next slide, please, Angelina. So this is our latest service, our newest one. It's Domestic Abuse Recovery Together service, DART. The DART service is a 10-week program. It is to support mother and one child with recovery after domestic abuse. Sometimes the relationships within coming out of domestic abuse have been impacted directly and indirectly, in terms of someone's feelings, maybe blame and shame, things like that, communication, a parent being maybe undermined by the abusive parent, undermining the non-abusive parent in their parenting. Loads of different issues can come up. So this program is designed to support people with that recovery process, reconnecting really mother and child. And it is for children aged 7 to 14. When we say one child, it means mum could come back again and do it with another child, of course. But we found that the one child mum needs to focus on one child at a time. If she had too many children with her, doing the group work program would be too difficult. She'd be pulled in many different ways, and that can actually become counterproductive if a child's feeling that they were lost or rejected during the crisis situations. They can feel that again. So you're wanting to make sure that this is a safe space, dedicated space for each child. In terms of the service, what we're hoping, the goals of this service is to help the family understand domestic abuse better, to help them learn ways of expressing their feelings and talking about their feelings in a safe and healthy way. Building the confidence and self-esteem, particularly with mum as well, with the parenting, if it's been undermined and things like that. And developing protective strategies and looking at things like blame and trying to, work through some of those emotions and process those emotions so they're not impacting on the relationships. So that's sort of the overview of the program. Next slide, please, Angelina. This is a little video that shows, it's only a short video just showing a wee bit about the domestic abuse program. So I'll just let Angelina play that.
In families, not only does it cause physical injuries and things like that, but actually it's more emotional damage. When we meet children who've been through domestic abuse, the first thing that we're told about by the parents and by school sometimes is that the children are really, really struggling to fit in. They can present as being very angry, unable to manage their own emotions. From our point of view, we know that it's seeing past that behaviour. That's what's really important, and actually kind of get back in touch with the child, really. Ultimately, we want children to be able to be part of the community, to do well in life, to actually achieve their aspirations and their goals, whether they want to be an astronaut or a teacher, and to have that confidence to do that, basically.
That was just a short video, short and sweet. So the next slide shows the background and rationale. The DART program was designed based on research of talking to my mum and that was research undertaken by the University of Warwick, which shows that the outcomes for children were improved when there was the non-abusive parent was supporting the active recovery of the child, and this is where the DART programme came into play. Next slide, please. So how are we going to achieve this? By improving communication between mother and child, breaking down things like family secrets is really important. We've talked about the confidence with parenting already, an understanding of domestic abuse, getting a better understanding of that and the impact that has on relationships, helping mothers and children move forward as a family unit, equipping mothers and children with the skills and developing those positive relationships, and modelling behaviour from the practitioners, because there's 4 practitioners involved, because there's different, the group come together, they have sessions together, then they split up, the parents go to separate session, children go to separate session, do a piece of work and come together, and helping the mothers deal with the children's feelings and anger, guilt, responsibility, and taking responsibility without blaming each other. Next slide, please, Angelina. So the sessions sort of cover things like, as we mentioned, about defining domestic abuse and feelings and exploring those feelings and challenging those emotions, managing loss and embracing change, because it's important to acknowledge that there has been losses, and trying to move forward with those losses and understand the gains that have been happening as well. And developing healthy relationships is important for future safety and planning and safety networks and positive communication skills moving forward. Just thinking about an actual session itself, we would have like an icebreaker at the start, we would have a mindfulness at the end, and activities within the sessions. You saw in the little video, the little house, that's the domestic abuse house, and the child creates a domestic abuse house in order to safely express their feelings about the domestic abuse. We also use the feelings volcano that you saw with the LTFI. That's also used in this program as well, and it's all about helping people use those feelings. We use things like communication tools, like a talking box for parent and child to be able to start to communicate, talking blankets, things like that, different things that they can use. And also we show a lot of information, like there's a domestic abuse video about home truths about domestic abuse to help people understand, some of the reasons why mum's dead, things like this, all that stuff. And it's all tailored depending on the ages of the child. We do hopes and fears and stuff like that, and have a look at the power and control wheel, all that stuff to give that information of them understanding exactly what happened within the abuse. And understanding the feelings in your body and things like that. And we use a bit of symbolism here as well with this recovery program. Towards the end, things like we use balloons, and you can write messages on the balloons and you let the balloons go and things like that. So it's got a lot of similar elements to help with that recovery process that I've mentioned before. Next slide, Angelina. I'll not spend a lot of time on this next slide. It's just the theory of change that is what the program uses. But essentially what it is thinking that someone being exposed to domestic abuse has impacts on the relationships I've mentioned, directly and indirectly. And this recovery program has helped them move through the change of that, and to help with communication and emotional well-being. So that's the whole sort of, and prevent future risk. Evaluation then. Next slide, Angelina, thank you. So DART has had evaluation across, we haven't been delivering it long here in Northern Ireland. We're still getting that up and running, but it has been developed for a long time across the UK. So evaluation has been done across the UK. And it's been a robust evaluation, looking at mixed methodology, things like standardised measures. We use the strengths and difficulties questionnaire with the children. We use Rosenberg scales for depression with mum, to get an idea of how things are improving during the course of the programme. That's at the start and the end. We use those. For the evaluation that the NSPCC did as well, they added an extra measure of using the parental acceptance rejection questionnaire. And they use surveys and qualitative interviews. And over 2/3, 62% of mothers with low self-esteem reported improved levels of their self-esteem upon completing the DART programme. Over half, 51% of children who had high or moderate behavioural or emotional difficulties reported substantially lower levels of need following completion of the DART programme, which is great. And also following completion, 88% of children who found their mothers struggled to show them affection. reported substantially improved relationships with their mothers. So lovely impacts there in terms of the evaluation of the DART, the progress that people have made. Next slide, please, Angelina. So this slide just gives you a few quotes. I'm not going to read them all out to you. Just you can read them more when you get the full slides. But just like one thing, like with the DART worker, I finally felt I had someone to talk to. I had all these thoughts and feelings built up over so many years. I felt like a shaken bottle of pop ready to explode. Maybe I got that from the volcano thing. I felt like someone was listening and taking notice of what was going on, with lovely quotes. But there's other ones there, but I'll not read through all of them. Referral criteria then. Next slide, Angelina. This criteria, as I mentioned before, was 7 to 14 years of age. They have to have had domestic abuse experience, because that's what the program's about, and assessed as being harmed by this, because sometimes people have other resilience factors going on. You guys all know, you're studying to be social workers and social care workers, that, you know, resilience is very unique to everyone. You know, you may have a special adult in your life in terms of what you've experienced before, your self-esteem, what everything. Those all give different levels of our own individual cups of what we can cope with in life. So it mightn't be that you have been harmed, you know, by the domestic abuse, or you've been able to work through the harm because you've had a good supportive network in place. But if not, this is what the program is here for, to help for those people who maybe haven't been able to work through because they've had other impacts, you know, or they just need a bit of support. The perpetrator no longer part of the household. That's really important. The reason why is if they're still part of the household's in crisis, they're not going to be able to talk about recovery. Recovery wouldn't seem appropriate. They're in safety mode at that point. They need that crisis work at that point. Abused perpetrator towards abuse, perpetrated towards a female. We do recognise that males also have been abused, most certainly, but the majority is more females who step forward and are getting support. So this program is designed for that. Able and willing to travel to Belfast for the program. That's really important because it's a face-to-face program. Our Pregnancy in Mind program can be face-to-face or it can be online. And most of the times it is online now because that's just the nature of it. It's worked out that way, and it has lots of benefits of being online. This one, given it's a recovery program, it needs that one-to-one face-to-face approach in a group setting. So it would need to be traveling to Belfast for that. Exclusions then, if the mum's the mum has her own mental health things going on, you know, maternal inability to participate in the group, you know, they need some support first before doing a group like ours, because we don't want to open up and re-traumatize someone if they've not been able to get the support they need first. So we would try and, you know, make sure they got that support first. Child, also their own ability to join the group. It could be cognitive issues, you know, a group setting mightn't be the appropriate thing for them if they've got cognitive issues, impairments, or behavioural issues, you know, because they would be exposing those behaviours to other young people who have been through traumatic situations. So it's about, you know, having that level, that support in place first, maybe before doing the DART programme. If the child also has had other forms of abuse, like sexual abuse, they might need LTFI support first, rather than the DART programme. The referral process, Angelina, next slide. That self-referrals are accepted, professional referrals with a referral form also. All these slides will be given out, so you'll get all these email addresses and telephone numbers. And we would need, once again, specific information about who's the family history, the partner details, and we need all that to do a thorough assessment. And you could sign that knowing if you don't know some areas of that. Okay, well, that was a whistle-stop tour of the 3 services we deliver at the direct services. I will hand you over now to, I think, is it going to be Shelley now?
It is, yes, Erin, thanks very much. And we'll pass over to Shelley now for Young Witness Service.
Hello, Irene. We're going to give you a break. Thank you for that. Hello, everyone. My name's Shelley Loudon. I'm the team manager for the Young Witness Service. The Young Witness Service is a regional service across Northern Ireland, and we support children and young people under the age of 18 who have to go to a court because of a criminal case. So it can be the courts that we're involved in are the youth court, the magistrates court, and the Crown Court. And the reasons why we might be involved can be in relation to whether it can be something more straightforward in relation to maybe it's a theft of a mobile phone that a child has witnessed to a very severe rape or murder. There's all sorts of scenarios, and some of the references Irene was making to some of the children that they're working with might be a child that the next thing is they're asked to come to court. So the aims of the Young Witness Service are to ensure the needs of the young witnesses are fully understood, respected and met within the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system isn't an easy system to navigate. It's not very well understood by most people, understandably, and it's incredibly difficult if you're a child. We really see the court system as a secondary trauma, and some of the issues that occur are really, really difficult. So children have been through something, and even just witnessing something that's difficult, and then coming to court is a secondary thing on top of that. The service is to help them achieve their best evidence to tell the truth about their story in the criminal justice proceedings, and making sure that they have everything practical and emotional that they need. So there's a real strong advocacy drive in relation to the Young Witness Service for children's needs. The children are incredibly different, and we would very commonly within our service would make requests for a registered intermediary assessments. That really means we would ask, does your child have any additional needs? And that isn't the question that's asked by the police very often. And maybe we're asking it for the first time, and maybe a child has autism, ADHD, and that requires an additional professional to help in their communication at court, called a registered intermediary. I don't have enough time to go into the explanation of that role, but it's certainly something that helps in relation to their needs in court. And I've already touched on the advocacy and then the rights in relation to the under the legislation. There is a victims charter that applies to adults and to children that we're just coming across, and it outlines how victims of crime should be treated. So it's things like being treated with respect, dignity, that you ought to know, you ought to get regular updates. If you don't speak, if English isn't your first language, you have a right to an interpreter, that you have a right to support, and those rights are there in the legislation, but they're not necessarily there in practice. So we had a young witness participation group, and they actually wrote their own version of the Victims Charter, which we're very proud of. The second, I suppose, in relation to touch, and we're going into legislation and policy, a major thing that's affected the Young Witness Service, and a really good thing, was I keep getting to say he's a former Lord Justice of Appeal, Sir John Gillan, undertook a review in 2019, and that was on the back of the 2018 rugby trial that really highlighted the defendants were acquitted. It was a rape trial, but what it highlighted was the horrendous cross-examination of the witness involved in that trial. It went on for days. There was a lot of social media attention, and there was a lot of public outcry about it. So what happened? That initiated that review, and you can see written there's 253 recommendations, and there is a whole chapter in relation to children. And some of the things that we're seeing coming through are recommendations for remote evidence centres, and there's been a change in the legislation in relation to not allowing everybody into court when it's a serious offence. So the implement, it's referenced at the bottom there about the Gillan Review implementation programme, and it's about getting those 253 recommendations through, but some of them don't cost any money. Some of them are about mindset, so that has been very significant and important for us, and I think it's certainly changed things for the better. Next slide, Angelina. Which is about, I just remember, it's a young witness ammunition. So I'm going to take a break here and let you watch this.
Every year, over 500 children and young people have to give evidence in criminal cases across Northern Ireland. This can be a hard thing for anyone to do. For over 20 years, the NSPCC Young Witness Service has supported children and young people through this difficult experience by providing information and support to children and their families before, during, and after the trial. Being a witness in a case can feel like a really big deal, so it's normal to feel nervous, unsure, or even afraid. Most young people don't know where they'll go, what to expect, who they'll meet, or what they'll have to do. They may also have lots of worries or questions that can feel overwhelming. Research has shown that the support given by the team of social workers and trained volunteers of the Young Witness Service helps to reduce some of the stress and anxiety levels of young people giving evidence, which ultimately enables them to answer questions better. This gives the judge or jury better evidence to help them make a more informed decision about the outcome of a case. Support we provide starts before a young person has to give evidence in a case. We may visit a young person in their home and speak to them and their parents or carers about how they feel about being a witness. Depending on their particular needs or the challenges they may face, this support may be spread over a number of visits. Not every young witness will have to come to a courthouse to give evidence. Some will be asked to come to a remote evidence centre, which may simply be a room in another building. Young people can visit the place where they'll give their evidence from and see where they will wait, the room that they will give their evidence from, and if they wish, the courtroom where the case will be heard. They will get to meet the staff and volunteers who will be with them when they come to court. We never talk to a child about what they saw or what happened to them. Our job is to help them through being a young witness and to provide support whilst encouraging them to simply tell the truth. On the day of the case, we are there to wait with them and accompany them if they have to answer questions in a room with a live video link to the courtroom. Young people may have had to answer questions about a very traumatic event that may have happened to them, such as abuse or a serious assault. This can have an impact on a young person's life long after a court case is finished. The Young Witness Service team will assess if the young person needs further support after the court case is finished. We may help young witnesses access support from other services if required. All the young people we help show great courage in being a witness. They may have faced difficulties and delays, all against the backdrop of the daily challenges of growing up. We hope that they will not have to meet us again, but our staff and volunteers are always here, ready to help the next young person who might need the Young Witness Service. Every childhood is worth fighting for.
I realise we're running out of time, so Angelina, I think that's for everybody. I think if we move on, because I think that video actually highlights a lot of what the actual service is about, and some of the. I think what's probably important is just to raise very quickly some of the big problems for children. As most people would be aware, I've heard in the news that there's an ongoing barrister strike, which is around legal aid fees, and that's been going on from the beginning of January for Crown Court cases. So there is massive delays going on. We're talking 2, 3, 4 years, causing a huge impact. It's very much a postcode lottery in relation to the courts and the court facilities of what children actually get. It just depends where you live, and it actually can affect outcomes as well, because remote evidence centres are proven to be very successful with justice outcomes, because children are feeling much more supported, and we very much lobby and advocate in relation to that issue. Special measures mean about children being given choice, and about being able to go to a remote evidence centre, being able to use, they are all entitled to video link. The questioning the barristers use is horrendous, so it is really, really difficult, not something that's at a child's level. And interagency communication and training can be a big issue for most people on this call, and something that we continually work at. Next slide. I think this is our newest member of the team. It is Naomi Long. We have the benefit of an assistance therapy dog called Sebastian, and I just want to finish off with this one. If you can press play.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet Sebastian and the other volunteers who help children and young people navigate the court system. It can be truly daunting for an adult to take part in court proceedings. So imagine how difficult it is for a child or a young person to give evidence in court. The NSPCC Young Witness Service continues to provide invaluable support to vulnerable children and young people across the court system, helping to reduce anxiety and making sure they can provide their best evidence, ensuring justice can be delivered. Even more importantly, the work of the NSPCC volunteers helps minimise the impact of giving evidence, which can also help children and young people recover from the trauma of crime. This is paramount for me as Justice Minister.
Right, you can see Sebastian at the front there. Okay, I think over to you, Angelina.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Again, in the interest of time, everybody, I'm just literally going to give this a very light touch to say that NSPCC have a school service, and we are in 96% of primary schools in Northern Ireland delivering on a message encouraging children at in an age-appropriate way to speak out and stay safe. The children will learn about abuse in all its forms in a child and age-appropriate manner, and we provide advice and support on trusted adults who they would speak to if they were worried, and of course tie in the Childline message into that. And I guess for you as practitioners, it's known that this service exists. And we also hope to be able to give children a common and familiar language in regards to abuse, so that they're able to come forward and speak. So it might be worth you as practitioners linking into the school. Is this something that the child will have engaged with? And does that assist me in my conversations as a practitioner? Okay, so I'll forward these slides out to you after the event. And again, just a wee bit of stats there that in that academic year, we reached over 66,000 children in primary school in Northern Ireland with that message about speaking out, staying safe. So Talk Relationships is our post-primary school offer, so secondary school. We deliver on a whole school approach to secondary school, so assisting everyone within the school in training. We encourage online training, provide supports with that, provide modules that they can do. We provide 15 lesson plans to the educators, really trying to increase their confidence in having discussions around healthy relationships with post-primary school children. The offer in itself was developed with post-primary school children, so they gave us their preferred language, messaging, symbols and things like that they like to use. And we see it as everybody in the secondary school's business, from those in the canteen to supervisors to secretaries to school teachers itself. So everybody is challenging and promoting the idea of what a healthy relationship is. Okay, so that's just a little bit more about what we provide. And again, that's a free offer. Okay, so I'm going to pass over now to Grania, who is here from our helpline, who's going to explain a little about what they do. Okay, Grania, over to you.
Hi, Angelina. Thanks so much. I'm just very conscious of time, so this is going to just be a very quick whistle-stop tour of what the helpline can offer. If you do want any more information, then please feel free to reach out to us or just put a message into the chat and we'll get back to you. So, Angelina, if you go to the next slide, please. Okay. So the NSPCC Helpline, it was launched in March 1991, and it was really launched as a response to the first 24-hour child protection helpline. Since then, we've seen our demand increasing massively, and post-COVID in particular, we've seen the demand for our service rise exponentially. We have a team of advisors, helpline practitioners, domestic abuse advisors, and a tracking and feedback team, and we use them to track the feedback of the interventions and the referrals that we have shared. One of the key strengths of our helpline is the wealth of knowledge that we possess within our workforce. It's a very diverse workforce, and we recognise the diversity of our workforce and how important it is to having good outcomes for the people who contact us. We have a multidisciplinary approach, and so we have staff from a number of professional backgrounds. This includes social work, policing, education, criminal justice, early years counselling and healthcare. We hope that this enables us to have a strong knowledge base and offer the best guidance that we can to our service users. Next slide, please. So how and when we can be contacted. We can be contacted by telephone, and our main number is there on the line. We also have a professional line number for you as well, and if anyone would like that, we're happy to share that with you. We also welcome calls from social work practitioners, from counsellors, and from other members of statutory sectors where our staff are willing and can offer advice and support for any contacts that you need. So in brief, the helpline is for anyone who needs us. This can range from members of the public who have concerns, whether that be in their personal or their professional lives. It can be something they've seen at work, parents who may need support advice, and survivors of non-recent abuse. In terms of contacts to the helpline, again, as we said, they continue to rise exponentially. In 25-26, we responded to over 70,000 contacts. We made 20,000 referrals in that year. Neglect was the highest that we've seen across any year, and that accounted for 25% of the contacts that we made. Physical abuse was 45% of all the referrals that we had made. Sexual abuse and exploitation accounted for 11% of contacts to the helpline, and DA accounted for 11% also. What we would say in terms of these contacts is the complexity of the referrals that we have seen in your own practice, you'll see this too, it does increase. And although we individually monitor these tags and these headlines, within those contacts, they're multifaceted. So all of our work is intersectional, and we see nearly all of these issues within every single contact. I think in this last year, DA really accounted for a substantial rise in the concerns that we had seen shared with the contacts. Also, within the 12 days of Christmas, we've seen a 2% increase in the contacts, and that ranged from the 24th of December to the 4th of January. And again, neglect was seen as the highest reason there. It would be really interesting to have a conversation around neglect, and had we had more time, it would be great to do that. I'm always unsure if instances of neglect have risen, or if it's really a response to the current financial climate and how we have historically assessed neglect. And I think that would be a really good discussion to have if we had more time, but unfortunately we don't. So what other services do we offer? We offer an FGM helpline, and that's available for anyone who has concerns that FGM may happen or has happened to a baby, a child, or a young person. We look at FGM within the remit of violence against women. So within those contacts, we also have cases where there is instances of honour-based violence and forced marriage. Whistleblowing, we have an NSPCC dedicated helpline for that. So the NSPCC is a prescribed body under the Public Interest Disclosure Act. And what that means is that we encourage members of the statutory sector, members of schools, members from education that can contact us with total anonymity in regard to sharing safeguarding concerns in relation to babies, children, adults, or other persons that they may be employed with. In addition to that, we also have commissioned helplines. So if we go to the next one, we also have our commissioned helplines. So we work with partnership with businesses and support organisations and other charities to provide safeguarding support. So we have Report Abuse in Football, the RSPCA, Young Minds, and Diabetes UK. In addition to these, we also advise on standard commission helplines. So these can be short-term requests for helpline support and responding to and providing advice and signposting. I think most recently we have worked on the commission for Vincent Chan, and that was a very interesting commission. We've also worked on Operation Lanark and Operation Anzu, and the NSPCC were one of the agencies that supported with the reporting of abuse of Jimmy Savile. So in terms of the commission helplines, they're really interesting to work on from a practitioner point of view, but also really instrumental in supporting criminal justice agencies in terms of how they gather information and how they report and share that information. Alongside that, we also work in conjunction with the travel agency. So information can be provided to us in relation to incidents that happen abroad. And this is really important because people often think when they're out of the jurisdiction of the UK that safeguarding doesn't matter as much, or that incidents won't be as reported. We know also that there's more likely for alcohol misuse to have occurred when families are abroad. And so it's really, really important in terms of the cases that we see, where there potentially is domestic abuse, physical abuse, neglect, where children are often left alone or unsupervised, concerns related to adult mental health or adult substance misuse. And as you said, many of these incidents do include or related to adult substance misuse. So the journey of a referral in the helpline, Angelina, if you go to the next slide, a phone call or an email will be received into the helpline. It will be triaged by a manager like myself. We will then assess this, whether it needs a referral or it can be given advice, and we will respond to it accordingly. We aim to do that within a 24-hour period, but obviously that will depend on service demand and the complexity of what we're seeing. Angelina, if we go to the next slide, please. So as touched upon, we manage a team of domestic abuse advisors as well. So this came about in 2021 as a 2-year project and was a response to an increased contacts we received during and after the pandemic. We then received funding from a COVID-19 fund, and we were able to establish a team of 2 domestic abuse practitioners initially with the service head. We have expanded that to 5, and we are also hoping to advertise and recruit a further practitioner in the coming year. So the NSPCC set about tackling the 35% a month increase in DA contacts that we have received since lockdown. We want to highlight that home is not always the safe place that it's intended to be, And we hope that for adults and children, our demand will continue to grow so we can offer the best possible service to them. In terms of, if we just go back one, Angelina, please. So casework. Each team of DAPAs will hold 5 cases and each have supported over 90 women. We would love to offer our casework to every individual woman that contacts us, but unfortunately that just is not possible. So our starting point will always be to complete a DASH risk assessment. We will then start as making onward referrals to multi-agency safeguarding hubs and police where appropriate and necessary. We work closely with social workers to complete our reports. And one thing we have noticed is that when women often leave, the social work ends as they're viewed as no longer needing the support. However, for us, that's really the starting point to recovery. And we like to work then with multi-agency partners in collaboration. So that can be with with support workers in refuge, with IDFAs, and with other statutory agencies to ensure that women are safe, supported, and at times housed once they do exit these abusive relationships. Angelina, if we go to the next slide, please. As I said, I've whipped through this incredibly quickly because I am conscious of time. We often talk about triggers and we often talk about fatigue, but one of the things on the helpline that's really, really important to us is to celebrate victories and achievements. So we also like to look at glimmers as well. And these are just some of the feedback that we have received from the people who've used our service. And we hope that, you know, if you are interested, you do reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to provide additional information about any of the services we provide. Thank you, and I'm going to hand over to our colleagues at Childline.
Thank you, Grania. If you'd like to move on to the next slide, Angelina. Just going to very quickly tell you about Childline for a couple of reasons. One, we are always looking for volunteers, as is Shelley in the Young Witness Service. But the other reason, and the main reason we're there, is for children and young people. So we are there for 24 hours a day, and it's just to make you aware how you can support young people. So the best way is let them go onto our website. Even if you know a child that you think is struggling and not talking to you, let them go onto the website. There's loads of advice there, loads of resources which they can look. And then if they feel more confident, they can contact us by phone, by one-to-one chats, or by emails. 75% of the contacts we take now are online because that's the way young people like to go. We have 12 bases across the UK, and in lockdown we opened our 13th base, which is actually a virtual base. It answers nothing but emails. So we get hundreds of emails every day from young people. In the 12 other bases, there's myself in Belfast, there's one in Foyle, and then England, Scotland and Wales, we take the phone calls and the chats from young people. Staggering to think when Childline is 40 years in October this year that it's been going on, and that first night they took 50,000 calls from young people and the phone lines crashed. They couldn't cope, and we still can't cope with the volume that comes in. Angelina has on screen there our policy. This is a different policy to what you're used to working under, and that's there online, and you can get the kids to read some more about it. Basically means that they can come on and talk to us about anything, and we don't always pass that information on. Obviously, the safety of the child is paramount. If we believe them to be in a life-threatening situation, we will pass the information on, but a lot of the times they can come and talk to us in confidence. The phone calls are not recorded. It doesn't show up on any phone bill. This is some of the reasons why young people contact us. Sadly, as Grania said, we have seen neglect as well and abuse rise statistically, but the main thing is mental health, living with suicidal thoughts. But there's also some, they phone us sometimes, chat to us just to say hello and say nice things. So again, point people in the direction of the Childline website. Angelina, if you flick on, I think just one of the important things I want to do is, and just on past that, Angelina, it's to report remove. I don't
believe it.
I don't know if it'll play, Angela. It's quicker for me maybe to say, I'm not sure, rather than play this. Yeah, no, it's just for a young person who has taken nudes and maybe sent that, and it's really distressing for them. We can actually get them taken down, so they can go onto the Childline website. A lot of people are not aware that that's there for young people, and we can get those images removed. So that is a new thing that we're doing, working with the Internet and Watch Foundation. And just the slide before it, I'm going to give Shelley and I another plug. There are, I think, Angelina, you have a list. If you just go forward another couple. There we go. So Childline relies on our volunteers with 1,300 amazing volunteers. Young Witness relies as well. We can't do without our volunteers. And there's loads of other ways you can help. Volunteering, as Angelina said, in the school service, speak out, stay safe. So Alison, very happy for any of our emails to be shared with anybody if they are interested in volunteering. Angelina, I'll pass over to you to say the final few words.
Okay, thank you, Gillian, and thanks everybody for attending. Just a final plug for you to go and look at in your own time that we do have some local campaigns like our Talk Pants, which is a guide for parents and professionals to engage with children aged 3 and above around their private parts being private. So it's that early conversation about protection from abuse. The Look, Say, Sing, Play is also a campaign, lots of tools and resources online, but it looks at early attachment and bonding for parents and carers with children and babies not the 2 years. And then we also have Safe to Be, which is a healthy relationships campaign that we designed alongside Cara Friend, which is young people from the LGBTQ plus community, and they have designed a whole toolkit about what they need to feel safe, and a lot of it is around safe spaces actually as a starting point, as opposed to relationships, just feeling safe within the community to be themselves. So the collective, you can also redirect any young people you're working with to the collective if they want to become involved with us. They can sign up to the collective and we will send that young person out opportunities to engage with NSPCC. So it could be around having a young person's view on something, a piece of research, data, a volunteer opportunity, but there's a whole range of things that might align with that young person's needs. So if you're working with anybody that might be interested, you can signpost them to the collective. And as a final thing, we have NSPCC Learning. As professionals, you can sign up to this. And once signed up, you can then email our NSPCC Learning email address and ask, say, for example, a review of a topic you're interested in. So say you're interested in childhood sexual abuse, our NSPCC Learning team will then do you a literature review and pull down all up-to-date literature, research, evaluations and things that you should be engaging with in regards to that topic. So it's a handy wee tool and it's better than AI. Okay, so that is basically it from us. And again, yep, I will send you these resources. I'll also send you some of the campaign stuff that we didn't get to go through today. And we hope to come back to any questions then that you might have afterwards.